Hi, it's KCCK's Culture Crawl. I'm Dennis Green, and my guests today are from the upcoming production of Over the River and Through the Woods from TKM Productions. Tom Milligan, the M in TKM.
Good morning.
Is with us, and Adam Burnham. Adam, nice to have you.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
So I was saying before we started that I only saw this show once, and it was close to 30 years ago.
Probably. Yeah.
But I remember it, or pieces of it as well as you can, vividly. It's always been one of my favorite things. So I'm thrilled to talk about it.
Good. I'm glad to be here.
One thing I probably knew at one point, but I just relearned, is it's written by the same fellow who wrote the musical I Love You, You're Perfect Now Change.
Yes, yeah. That's Joe DiPietro, I believe is how you pronounce his last name.
So if that's one that you remember, then that's a point in its favor right there. And I was remarking that I remember a production of this that Theater Cedar Rapids did all those years ago, and this is kind of a revisit.
Yeah, the reason we put it on the schedule was because we were doing last year we were doing Sex Please We're 60, and we had Marty Norton and Cheryl Moon Thomason in it, and they had both been involved in that production that you're talking about, and they said this would be a great show for you because it's a small cast. It's the type of show that we look for. We love a good comedy where the plan for the evening is for you to come to the theater and just have a good time and not have to think about too much, but still have a good meaning behind a show and the talent. That's what we look for too, is the talent and the people that work with us.
So we've talked around this a little bit, but I haven't actually explained what the play is about. So Adam, I'm going to come to you. Give us the back of the paperback plot summary.
So the play circles around a young man, Nick, from New Jersey area. He visits his grandparents, all four grandparents. They all live about 2 houses down from each other, but every Sunday they visit and have dinner together. Just about how wacky grandparents can be, they kind of take the cake. But he presents them with a bit of a wrench in the plans for the future because he's been given this job promotion in Seattle. And they have to kind of come to grips with what's life going to be like with him, without him, or how can we get him to stay? So they kind of devise a plot to maybe bring in a young lady, played by Claire Boston, who they can kind of convince. They think if they can get him to fall in love with her, maybe they can convince him to stay. and hilarity ensues.
Right, yeah. One of the pivotal scenes in this is a game of Trivial Pursuit.
Yes.
And when this play was written, Trivial Pursuit was a thing.
Right. A kind of an early thing. We've dated the show to 1982.
So you're doing it in period.
We are, yeah. And I think it's important to do that because the relationship that the grandparents have is totally generational away from the grandson. And it's a grandson. It's not a next generation. It's the grandson. It's 2 generations later. And the difference between their knowledge of things just in general, like answering machines and different things like that. The modern technology that's just starting to happen is part of the humor, is the fact that they don't understand. They don't really even understand what the grandson does for a living. They just know that he's pretty good at it and things like that. So placing it in that time period was important. And the Trivial Pursuit, we researched and found out, was invented in 1979, so that kind of helped date the show. But it's one of those things where it's almost like a Who's on First segment, because the conversation and the banter between the 4 grandparents is kind of key to the humor of the show. The message that the grandson carries is more of starting to be more independent, and that we talk about faith, family, and food as the 3 things that the show is based on in that era. And he's starting to break away from that, and so it makes it a little different. And so the Trivial Pursuit is pretty key into understanding what the relationship is with where these people are mentally, and the development of technology and all these things that are happening around us.
If you were attempting to bring it forward fully into the future, or into the present, of course, we would we still have all those issues today.
Oh, sure.
with Some
Yeah.
of us
yes.
not always getting the modern technology. But the level of rewriting you'd have to do, replacing answering machines with cell phones.
Yeah, it would have to
and-
be
oh.
cell phones and video and games on TV and things like that. Just a whole different world of things out there. It's like the technology is different.
And I think it makes perfect sense because we can, in our mind, substitute.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah. Well, I had this same conversation with my dad or grandparent. Yeah, it was about the internet, not about an answering machine, but it's still the same thing.
I'd like to figure out my phone, but I'll have to wait until my 10-year-old gets home so I can figure it out.
Well, and I told you that 30 years after seeing this play, and I don't know if I'm quite remembering it right, but it's one of the bits around the Trivial Pursuit is, well, it's that actress. It's the girl with the hair
Exactly,
who married
yeah.
the guy with the ears.
Yeah.
And I mutter that to myself every time I can't remember
Right,
somebody's name. Well, it's the girl with the hair.
Yeah, and that gets back into what kind of the core of the show is. It's these four people, these two sets of grandparents that know each other so intimately that they've lived together. 60 years is one of the anniversaries, and they're all older, and this is that person that they've just melted together, and they know exactly what they mean when he says the guy with the ears.
Adam, what's your past experience with this show? You've done it in the past too, yes?
Right. Cheryl and Marty, part of the original cast, they actually brought the original set of grandparents back to do a readers theater at TCR, and they brought in a couple of us to play the younger couple, I suppose. I think the show became a game of, yes, let's enjoy the hilarity, but let's watch Adam and see if he breaks character. Thankfully, I just had to read. It became quite comical to me just trying to keep a straight face through the whole thing.
Now, did you know, I mean, you were really you were then and are now in the presence of theater royalty.
Absolutely.
Did you know at the time, too, that when you were with
yes.
Cheryl and Marty and Bob and everybody.
And the banter they do on stage, they do off stage just as much. and I mean, I find myself falling on the floor laughing really any and all times of the rehearsal, and I'm absolutely blessed to be around these folks. I get chills thinking about it.
I did the Follies with these people for a decade. So as much fun as it is on stage, and it's awesome fun off stage.
Yes, it is.
Backstage is also kind of fun. Yes,
Yeah.
Tom,
It
is that
is.
your experience too?
Yeah, that's what we look for at TKM. Is we look for the right people. In 4 years, we've only had one audition, a general audition. We go for the people that we want to go for. We found Adam through Cheryl. We had not met Adam before. Claire Boston, who was also in the show, was another one that Cheryl brought along. And it's that level of experience that we go, I don't need to see the guy. If you think he's good, then we'll go with that guy. And that's what happens then is you add a whole different element of people who are working for the project rather than working for themselves.
And you hadn't done this show before.
No,
You weren't
I had
familiar
not
with
read
too
it
much.
until Cheryl said, oh, here's something you ought to consider. And I read it through once. It's a short show. It's an easy read, but to me, it's a very conversational show. It has breaks to the audience where the cast addresses the audience and their situation, so it moves along. It's a memory play for Nick, the young grandson, and so it skips ahead, but it's very well written in the fact that you follow along exactly what's happening, even though there is not a legitimate scene break. It just flows from one to the other.
It's Over the River and Through the Woods, March 28th through 30th.
28th, 29th, and the 30th being a 3 o'clock matinee on Sunday.
At the Amana Center for the Performing Arts.
Amana Performing Arts Center,
Amana
yes.
Performing Arts Center, yeah. So
Amana.
We have performing,
Right.
we have performing arts centers, we have centers for the
We have
performing
everything,
arts.
don't we?
Yeah. Well, as I said, this is a show that I saw once 30 years ago and still remember it. That's the kind of show it is. So
Thank you.
getting and being able to bring it back with some of the same folks who
Yeah,
kind
it's
of
been
made it
fun.
made
We
it,
haven't
made
mentioned-
it
yeah.
memorable.
We haven't mentioned David Morton's in it as well, plays the other grandfather, and Meg Merkins is in it.
Okay.
She's gracing us with her presence on the stage, and it's wonderful to work with her again. So, and then Adam and, of course, Claire is a young couple, so we're having a really good time.
Yeah. It just sounds like it's going to be a blast. How do we get tickets?
You can get tickets at TKM theatricalproductions.com, or you can go to our Facebook page of the same name, and that will help you all the way through there. We've got our tickets all set up, and we're selling really well right now, so you want to get your tickets now.
I'm sure, definitely. It's already sounds fun, and I can hardly wait. Again, Over the River and Through the Woods, TKM Theatrical Productions, March 28th through the 30th, tkmtheatricalproductions.com for tickets. Gentlemen, thanks for being with me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can hear The Culture Crawl live on the radio most weekdays at 10:30, on demand at kcck.org/culture, or subscribe using your favorite podcast player. Watch our videos on the KCCK Facebook and YouTube channels. Our producer is Lydia Kilgore. The Culture Crawl theme is composed by Vivian Shanley. I'm Dennis Green, and I'll talk to you later.